What's going on, guys? I'm Steve. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. If it's your first time stopping by the channel, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't regret it. If you're a returning subscriber, as always, guys, welcome back, and I do appreciate the support. Guys, we got some news out of Sissonville, West Virginia, where these two people up here that you see, Donald Lance and Jeannie Whitefeather, both adoptive parents of, I think they said it was 5 black children from Detroit, were found guilty of trafficking the kids and forced labor. If you guys don't remember this story, these are the people that are responsible for moving from Washington State to a big parcel of land in Sissonville, West Virginia. They were living there 5 months, and neighbors started calling and reporting of them having some black children out there working all day without no rest and, very little food. They would lock them in the storage, looked like a piece of a barn, a storage shed at night, and they had succumbed to all kind of sick, twisted mental games and physical torments as children from these adopted people that were supposed to be their caretakers. They worked these people like animals, these young people like animals. And they was locked up. And the trial just concluded, and both of them unanimously was found guilty. And they are facing serious time. Take a look at this story and we'll come back and talk about it.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Jeannie K. Whitefeather, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of human trafficking of a minor child. We, the jury, find the defendant, Donald Ray Lance, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of human trafficking of a minor child.
Well, first tonight, a historic verdict after a more than 2-week-long trial. The couple accused of forced labor and child abuse of their adopted black children has now learned their fate from a jury.
Now, this was a split verdict, meaning it was not a straight guilty or not guilty for both of the defendants, Donald Lance and his wife, Jeannie Whitefeather.
Yeah, let's take a look at really all of those counts. So what we know, Whitefeather was found guilty of all 19 counts against her. You can see them right here on your screen: human trafficking, civil rights violation, forced labor. The jury did find that Lance was not guilty of 4 civil rights violations that they deemed Whitefeather was guilty of. And when it came to child abuse, there were more charges for Whitefeather because of an incident involving spraying the adopted children with bear spray, which Lance was not charged with.
Anna Saunders has been following this case for us all along. She has reaction tonight from attorneys on both sides on this historic trial and verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Jeannie K. Whitefeather, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of human trafficking. We, the jury, find the defendant, Donald Ray Lance, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of human trafficking.
For the first time in West Virginia history, human trafficking charges and now convictions handed down to both Jeannie Whitefeather and Donald Lance. Kanawha County Assistant Prosecutors Chris Kravaniak and Madison Tugg, who worked this case, say this is something that has never happened before at the state level.
First time the human trafficking statutes have been charged in West Virginia, we believe, and the civil rights violations aren't charged very often in West Virginia. They're tough cases to prove, and we appreciate the help we got from everybody on the team and also the office.
Whitefeather and Lance not visibly showing much emotion in the courtroom as prosecutors say Whitefeather now faces up to 215 years in prison. Lance looking at a max of 140.
I think they're upset, right? But they understand that that the jury heard all the evidence. I think it's fair to say they are upset. But they look forward to continuing with the criminal process. There's a sentencing, there's an appeal process that they look forward to. And like I said, it's understandable that they're upset, but they also understand that, they had their day in court.
This case all stemming from the October 2023 discovery of two of their adopted black teens locked in a shed in Sissonville, about 5 months after they moved here from Washington State. Investigators later uncovered more evidence, including videos, pictures, text messages, that the jury got to see that it was not just the teens, but also their adopted 11-year-old son and 9-year-old daughter victimized too. The home surveillance videos from cameras White Feather and Lance kept on the kids, showing the 5 days leading up to the shed rescue, where the kids would be forced to stand all day, sleep on the floor, take no baths, only allowed to eat peanut butter sandwiches. 2 months before they were locked away, they could be seen by neighbors working and standing in the yard at all hours. Once the neighbors started sounding the alarm, the kids spent most of their time inside, too, in the shed. But perhaps the most compelling part of the trial was when 3 of the children victims testified in this case against White Feather and Lance, detailing years of abuse, neglect, racial comments, and isolation.
Really hard for an adult to take the stand and testify against a stranger. I can't imagine the courage it took for a child to take the stand and testify against someone who, at one point in their life, they considered a parent.
In a rare move, both White Feather and Lance testified in their own defenses in this case, denying the allegations against them. But for the jury, this was not enough, as they found White Feather guilty on all of her charges and Lance found guilty on all of his except for the civil rights violations.
When Mr. Lance testified, he communicated through his verbal and his nonverbal cues that it made clear to the jury that he had a good relationship with the children, and race never really came in his mind when making any decisions.
The jury deliberated for 8 hours on Wednesday after sitting through more than 2 weeks of trial and thousands of files of evidence, ultimately returning what the prosecution was seeking: justice for the kids.
These cases mean a lot to us. We take a lot of this personally. This is our community, and these are the children of our community. And so if we're not going to fight for them, then who will?
The two will be sentenced by Judge Mary Claire Akers in March. In Kanawha County, Anna Saunders, Eyewitness News.
Guys, that's the story of these sick devils here. Jeannie White Feather and Donald Lance said Donald Lance was only guilty of 15 of the 19 counts, where Jeannie's fat ass was guilty of all 19. Now, Donald Lance didn't get the civil rights violations, which I think in court, after watching this Tyree Nichols trial, being there present, and them trying to explain all these different guidelines for civil rights violations, is very hard to go through all of those guidelines and get an understanding. And I think it's purposely made like that to where this type of stuff, people don't get convicted of it when I think they should. I think his dumbass should have got that shit too. Why? You contributed to the growth and development of children you adopted, both physically and mentally. I want you to think about that. They wasn't able to take baths, work all day, stand up until they come over the intercom like it's a prison or something, and then you can lay down. Then when you lay down, you had to sleep on the floor. Only giving them peanut butter sandwiches? You serious? That's not a healthy diet for kids? Growing kids at that? Got a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old wrapped up in this? My daughter's 9 years old. Are you kidding me? Always these different guidelines can't put into account common sense. Both of them should be hanging and swinging somewhere. You want to reenact slavery? Let me show you what happened to slaves. I'd hang them both till piss run. They both got charged with, found guilty. She facing over 200 fucking years. She about to get smoked. He facing 150 years, under 150. I'd take them both outside right now, shoot them both in the ass, and string them up like horse thieves like in the cowboy days. This is appalling. When I first heard this story, I couldn't believe it. And nobody's reporting on this. This is one of the craziest stories I've ever heard. You heard them in West Virginia? Like, it was the first time we had to cover a story like this in recent times. Where's the outrage for this shit? Seriously, this is crazy. They talking about they picked those kids because they were black. They adopted them because of their race, because they had plans to use them in such a inhumane fashion. I told you before, when people treat people like animals, they take the human element out of them. Therefore, they feel no guilt. They was in denial. They took the stand. After that abysmal crime, they took the stand. That was their downfall. As if the facts wasn't bad enough. You getting up there, I love my kids. Yeah, I love my children. Yeah, I don't know nobody that do that to their own damn kids or kids that they adopt and want to raise as their own. See, God made people where they can't have kids for a reason sometimes. And this is your perfect example. I feel nothing for these people. And you see, those other people felt nothing for them too. You come to Sissonville, our city, and pull this bullshit. And you seen what they did. Regardless of them being the same color, we don't want no parts of this bullshit. And you getting the fuck out of here. And they prosecuted them as such. Any type of crime like this where you dehumanize another human being should never be tolerated. And the punishment need to be extreme. If it was up to me, they would never see each other again. They couldn't correspond during the mail, and I'd let them rot and waste away like beef jerky in a cell somewhere, away from all human contact, because you have no respect or love for humankind, and your actions showed it. The fuck out of here. I'm Stock Market Steve for the Dynamic Reason channel. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe. They getting sentenced in March. We'll see what happens with that.